anyone seeking true inspiration and is timelier now more than ever. Through inspiration and action, this book provides the thirsty reader with a greater understanding of how we, as individuals, can positively affect change for ourselves and our collective humanity. I am Lois Herman, the author of Chronicles of Hope and the host of the Inspiring Hope radio show on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. You can find me at loisherman.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to Inspiring Hope with Lois Herman, a leading expert in professional coaching, clinical hypnosis, and energy clearing. Lois is an award-winning author of Chronicles of Hope. She has decades of experience in advanced hypnosis techniques, has conducted highly effective success coaching programs that have helped clients discover ways to achieve success, empower themselves, their families, as well as holistic practitioners to expand their practices. Get ready to be empowered with your host, Lois Herman.
Good morning and welcome to the Inspiring Hope Show. I am your host, Lois Herman, and I'm here to inspire you with positive messages and celebrate people who are making a difference in our world. When we focus our thoughts and energies on truth, honesty, and integrity, we create powerful shifts that cause us to be more positive and peaceful. As we lift our energy, we empower everyone around us. If we each do what we can to make small shifts in awareness, we create ripples of hope. Join us as catalysts for positive change for our families, our communities, and our world at large. I hope you're inspired by today's show. And today, welcome to warmer weather, sunshine, and hope for our future. Who and what do you listen to on a regular basis? Are you so busy that you run home from work only to turn on the TV? Do you watch gory, scary movies? Do you listen to harsh music or intensely negative friends? We are electromagnetic individuals with vibrational frequencies that resonate based on our intake, be it food, water, noise, or news. Everything has a vibration, and all vibrations affect our energy, whether we are consciously aware of them or not. An NLP professional, I am fascinated by how much neuro-linguistic program is used in our media. From news to politics to entertainment in music, movies, and TV. Are you aware of the mind control pervading our world? When you become aware of it, when you become conscious of it, you cannot help but notice how blatantly it's used and how blind the masses are to the fact that they are being programmed. In other words, if we're not careful, we are brainwashed by the narrative that's painted and planted in our minds by those who choose to sell us something, be it a product, a concept, a political agenda, or even false news. My special guest today is Dr. William Horton, founder of the National Federation of NLP, an elite NLP master trainer, and more. Neurolinguistic programming is how our neurology is programmed by linguistics, the words we hear, see, think, and speak. Will made a lasting impression on me over 20 years ago when I took my first NLP training with him. And over the years, I went on to become an NLP master and trainer and totally believe in the power of what he teaches. Words matter. What we think, read, hear, and say really matters to ourselves and to others. I'm an avid believer in the power of the mind, and the awareness of NLP causes me to listen and observe more closely that I may better understand others and be able to respond with more clarity of thought. You are listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Herman at WSMN.live, 1590 AM or 95.3 FM. Please help us share these messages. Watch the videos on my YouTube channel or website, loisherman.com, and join our Hope community for support and inspiration at chroniclesofhope.net. So a little background. The subconscious mind is the deep internal part of the mind that is the driver for choices, habits, and emotions. It's the storehouse of every memory from birth and beyond. We react to those memories based on triggers which cause us to respond with our senses in what we see, touch, hear, smell, taste, and feel. The superconscious mind is the infinite part of the mind that communicates with higher sources of wisdom in different ways. It could be referred to as the wise mind, divine wisdom, or higher power. This is the intuitive part, the sixth sense. The superconscious is the part of the mind that helps us bring peace. What if you could shift your subconscious mindset and take control of your own mind? What if you knew ways to discern truth from fiction? What if you had the tools to master your thoughts and were able to influence others with the power of your words? Words matter. Thoughts matter. What you listen to matters. Choose wisely the source of your inspiration. What you surround yourself with, you become. Be it people, music, media, or TV programming. Why do you think they call it programming? This is not a new concept. Mind control has been used to make others compliant for many, many years. In the Chronicles of Hope sessions with Mother Gaia, she tells us the concept of reward and punishment was introduced as a way to control people. If you're good now, it will be good for you later. For years, humans have believed that without the promise of reward or the threat of punishment, the physically strong would simply dominate everyone else. If you examine civilization today, you will see the strong still dominate, except the definition of strong has changed. It is no longer the biggest and the physically strongest. Those who have gathered more than they need are modern civilization's definition of strong. Gaia says, considering that most of the resources of the world are controlled by a very small handful of people, what you have is not a stable civilization. It's a minority of people who cause the majority of problems. There are plenty of people who know these things and who speak about them, but their voices are not heard, or worse, they're shouted down by the people who know they're doing damage, but doing it for profit. Today, many are censored for sharing their beliefs. We are living in a time of blatant mind control and indoctrination. Jesus actually tells us the voices of the people who do more good than harm don't seem to attract the attention of the people in the middle. The voices of the people who do more good than harm seem to be heard more clearly. He told me that we need to make known the voices of the people who do good. They need to be heard. We must amplify the positive, be honest, and really focus on those that are honest and uplifting. One special comment he made is that we need to speak the compliment aloud. People are hungry to hear good things, especially in this time of being exposed to so much fear. It is important to let people know when they have done well. A system based entirely on punishment without reward can never work. That's not a text. You can't text with that. He tells us, whenever you must say something to somebody to correct an action, try if you can to compliment them on a positive action at the same time. This is the root of NLP change work. I'm just going to pause for a second. Is he on the phone? Okay. All right, we're having a little technical difficulty. You want him to call back in? Can you call him and just ask him to? You could just return that call. Sorry, a little technical. Hold on, everybody. We're going to get Will back on the phone. Somehow he's managed to slip out of our grasp here. There we go. We're going to let Allison chat with Will for a second. Meanwhile, back to my narrative. So Jesus tells us that humanity is in worse shape now than it was when he was here 2,000 years ago. We have an upward struggle to help humanity. There have been many who said, "My way is the only way." Nothing could ever be further from the truth. Humanity is too complex to believe that there is ever one course of action. Rather than accept everything we hear or see as absolute, we should open our minds, ask questions, and explore possibilities in order to gain clarity, which leads to peace of mind. Jesus commented on the importance of how we speak with each other. He said that English is a difficult language, that words have definitions and connotations. It is difficult to speak literally without being misinterpreted. This is especially true in written words that do not have the appropriate emphasis. The Atlantean god Ray said, "It's not so much what you say, it's the belief in what you say that matters." This is all about the intention. He said there's a reason why honesty has always been a most valued quality. If you cannot be true to your own beliefs, how can you possibly be true to anything? And many people are unaware of their own beliefs right now. They have been so programmed to follow the narrative, they respond harshly without really understanding why. Their minds and their actions have been manipulated. Typically, what is seen is a projection into the minds of others. It's a function of how the mind processes the information. If you introduce a vision into someone's mind, they will think they see it. It is possible to program others to believe the way you want them to by repetition, emphasis, and introducing controlling thoughts. This is what has happened to control the masses. And what can we do to shift this mental programming? Today's very special guest is an expert in the power of linguistic influence. I am very excited and honored to have him share his ideas on what is going on in our world and what we might be able to do to shift the consciousness of humanity with our words. A true neurolinguistic master, addictions expert, and so much more. Welcome, Sensei Will. Hello, Dr. Will. Are you there? I don't hear him yet. Is he there? I don't hear you. We're going to have him call back in. So he's calling in from his spot in Florida. Oh, here we go. We're going to answer. Hello, Dr. Will.
Hi.
Hi.
My call puts me on hold. It doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't go anywhere. Well, we're going to try calling you in again, and we're going to put you right into the show because we're ready to chat with you. Sorry about all the confusion. So if you'll call back into the show line, we're going to get you right on the line. Okay?
Yeah, try my other phone.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, thank you. So it's always fun to have these technical issues and just see how we thread through them. We're going to ask for protection, healing, and empowering. Are you there now, Dr. Will?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Sensei Will, hi, how are you?
good.
Good. So you've been trying to log in. Did you get a chance to hear some of what I was talking about with the NLP and the mind programming that's going on and for decades, right?
Oh, yeah. It's been going on forever, and I don't hide my personal belief that I think we're going through one of the largest social experiments in the history of mankind.
I agree with you. So,
Yeah.
So what do you notice as this? I consider that you're like a master wizard of NLP. So tell us about this social experiment that you see that's going through right now. You and I have had conversations. I agree with you, but I'd love for you to share with the audience what your thoughts are.
Well, you got to remember, your brain developed over millions of years, right? And its main job is to keep you alive,
Right.
obviously, right? And, then the second is to procreate and eat food and things like that. But its main job is to keep you alive. So deep in your brain, in your reptilian brain, it is always on the threat mode model. It's always looking for something that'll kill you, right? Lions, tigers, bears, warring tribes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could kill us.
Right.
And so our brain is geared that way. We default toward negativity. It takes a lot of effort, because we always talk about just, positive thinking and all
Right.
that. It's only been in the last few hundred years that most people live past like 20, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a deep built-in mechanism, right? And so they always say, how do you get people to buy things? Well, you appeal to their base nature,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it depends what you're trying to sell. I mean, there always, like if I'll use an example people can relate to. Maybe I haven't seen it lately. I remember back, and you can remember this. They would advertise like Corvettes, Camaros, and Mustangs,
Mm-hmm.
and there was always a pretty girl in a bikini standing next to the car.
Right.
What has a pretty girl in the bikini got to do with the car? Nothing. But the pretty girl in the bikini will grab a man's attention because we're defaulting to if we're safe, we're defaulting to procreation, right?
Right.
Sex
Mm-hmm.
sells, as they've always known.
Mm-hmm.
And so, gotta buy the car thinking it appeals to women or whatever. Doesn't have to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like one level. But the deepest level is if I appeal to your fear, people respond quickly, right?
Yeah.
And they don't like new things. They default back. Anything new can be scary. We're seeing it now in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So when this whole thing started, it was constant fear 24/7.
Yes.
And because the way the media comes to us now, it's controlled by 6 major corporations in the United States, and I think they say like 15 all over the world.
Right.
And people go, it's easy to control the narrative,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
And so we were bombarded with pictures of, overflowing hospital rooms, morgues, lining up freezer trucks for the dead bodies, and da-da-da-da-da. And so people will see that, and that's the first gut level response. They start getting afraid.
Right.
Even though the other evidence never pointed it out.
No, most of it was staged.
You never
Mm-hmm.
saw like funeral homes going, we
Mm-hmm.
can't handle this.
Right.
Where are the mass graves? If
Mm-hmm.
it was like the Black Plague of, or the smallpox epidemic, I think that happened out west, they literally just had to dig deep holes and dump bodies in.
Right.
There was no time.
Right.
And yet, the people are so afraid. And so, and it was relentless. And every time things started to get better, there was more fear
Right.
and more fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, it became, they flipped the handle. And, there was a CIA, well, the Russians did the same study, but I'll blame the CIA. They found that the greatest way to discredit someone is to call them a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
Oh, you're just crazy.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? You're just crazy. That's conspiracy theory.
Mm-hmm.
There couldn't be 2 guns on the ridge that killed President Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
But
No,
if
there
you
were
watch
8.
but if you watch the video, it's
Right.
like that's not how people respond to gunshot wounds,
Mm-hmm.
right? Anyway, so it starts that, right? And then and then something miraculous happened, and we're seeing it right now where it became virtuous, right? To like wear the mask, get the vaccine. That's all. And if you're not, you don't care about people.
Right.
So they've turned their fear into a virtue.
Right.
And the last time we saw that, but it was on the flip side, which was during the Vietnam War,
Mm-hmm.
where it was virtuous to not go in the military,
Yeah.
to
Conscientious objecting.
dodge the
Yes.
draft
Mm-hmm.
and go to Canada,
Right.
right? And at least and actually they were afraid to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that, and I'm not making fun of it. Don't get me wrong on that one. But it became virtuous. I'm more virtuous than you. I'm not going.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And And of course, now you fast forward 40 years, and a lot of those guys that dodged the draft do things like get elected presidents, and it's like, okay, no harm, no foul. But so we're seeing this, and it's relentless, And then I'll close with the last evidence, which people go, that's just not true. Some states and countries are totally locked down. Other places are open.
Mm-hmm.
If why isn't the places that are open a mass casualty site?
Right.
Florida, Texas, some of the Asian countries. There's just like it's like you're not seeing it. And you point that out to people, and they go, "Well, you're just,
I've also heard that the Amish have not had any cases of COVID, and I heard why, because they don't have television.
Yeah,
they don't see. They're not programmed to believe in this false flag.
Yeah, and so it's like, and so those of us that like doubt it, it's like, oh my God, and there was just, I'll shut up with, and they just did a news thing. It'll be interesting what they do, where like 40% of the Marine Corps is not being vaccinated.
Right.
Because they can't make them take the vaccine because it's on an experimental basis.
Right.
And the FDA, and it's written in their bylaws, there's certain protocols they have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't override that. Fauci and some of them tried, but they couldn't.
Right.
So I'm waiting to see if there's going to be a presidential order ordering the military to be vaccinated.
Well,
so it's interesting.
And the same thing, by the same token, 60% of the medical community is refusing the vaccine as well. But that is not in mainstream media. You can find that at the Americans, there's a doctors, Americans Frontline Doctors. If you can find their information, that you have to get to it through DuckDuckGo, not Google. So you search it through DuckDuckGo, but there are a huge percentage of the medical community that is against this vaccine, but that's not being promoted out to the mainstream media because they've got a narrative. There's an agenda going on. And
why in the history? The people that have the antibodies, so somewhere they were exposed to it. Whether they got sick or not, we don't know. But
right.
If you have the antibodies, but they're still saying, "Oh, you should still get the vaccine."
Right.
Do you understand how your immune system works?
Right.
I mean, for God's sakes, I'm not a medical doctor, but I was trained as a medic, and if your immune system's working and you have antibodies,
yep.
Why would you take a vaccine?
Well, especially because this vaccine does not have the actual piece of COVID in it. Most vaccines have a piece of the aggravant in it, and then it stimulates your body to react to it. This is a completely different type. It's an experimental vaccine, and it's my husband and I tell people that we will take this. We're in the control group in 2023 when this clinical investigation is over. Then we'll consider it once we know specifically what happens. But we don't know right now.
And they keep changing the thing.
Because,
like my friend that's a doctor, an ER doc, now he's in private practice, but he says, the reason, he doesn't even recommend his clients get flu shots because it changes so often, it's kind of redundant.
Absolutely.
Right? And yet they keep saying, oh, no, it'll cover the new variant.
No, you're going to have.
And then now they're going to. And then they go, but you'll need a booster every 6 months.
Exactly. Look on the back of your card you were given. It has places for additional vaccines. And this vaccine does not. It covers the intensity of one symptom. It does not prevent you getting it, which is why they're still saying you have to wear a mask, which is a whole nother NLP nightmare. Because
and your brain is developed. When you were first born, and you've had, anyone that raised kids, when your baby's first born, they scream, you end up going, all my kid does is, eat, sleep, poop, and cry. That's all a baby does. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that's the brain development. It's the reptilian brain. And then around 3 to 4 or 5 months, suddenly it'll start responding to faces.
Mm-hmm.
And what that is, that's your mammalian brain, right? So because we need social structure.
Right.
So you're starting to respond to it, right? And so, so that's developing. And a little bit later, around 5 or 6, your and babies about that 3 to 6 months will really look at the eyes of a caregiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere around that 4 to 6 months, it also begins to look at the mouth.
Right.
Is there a smile? Is there
Mm-hmm.
a frown?
Right.
Da, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now they've taken away they've covered you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a subliminal message to shut up.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know, there's a reason why in the Mideast women have to wear burqas.
Mm-hmm. To make them
It's
invisible.
control, and your voice does not matter.
Exactly.
And also, I don't care how good you are at reading eyes, you can't read people's total facial expression.
No.
You know? And then you add to the fact, the one thing we know, and this could be, part of this is the disconnect between some medical sides and everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they act like all your body is geared for is to haul around your brain, right? And that there's social structure, social things don't matter. And yet, human beings by nature need physical contact.
Live, love, and belong. We need to have that interaction with another being in order to feel safe, validated, to have a sense of expression.
Well, and the research has always proven you get people in a group, their immune systems rise.
Yes.
As a group, it's called herd. That's what herd immunity is all about, you know. And yet, no, they're going to separate us, make us stay home. And as much as Zoom is wonderful and the technology we have, it's separating us more and more.
Exactly.
And it's taking away that. And you know, I would argue to people, and I've argued with some of my family members. I'm sorry, going to a movie in a movie theater, and it's not just a big screen; it's the group feeling of it.
Absolutely.
It's like any sports fan will tell you. You actually see I'm a football fan. It's the only sport, and MMA. It's the only sports I watch. But it's actually, if you really just want to watch it, TV is better. Mm-hmm. But my God, there's nothing like being at a game.
Right, because you feel the energy of the crowd. And
it's like, if you've ever had that happen, you're like, and hell, when I go see the Bucks play, or my favorite team's the Raiders, I'll go see the Raiders. You can't see the shit on the field; you're so far away, right?
Right.
But you're always looking at the jumbotron. But even then, it's the group, it's the feeling. Oh my God! But we're losing that. So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
So the things that make us healthy, that actually make us healthy, they're taking away.
That's what they have done.
The physical connection.
Yes.
In fact, Friday I was at a what they call a table read. My other profession's acting, right? Mm-hmm. But yes, I do have a license as a psychologist. Yeah, I've been doing the hypnosis therapy for 30 years.
Right.
But the other profession is acting. So I was at what they call table read, where you read the script for the first time, and probably 70% of the cast was in the room, and some had to zoom in because they're were in other places or working on other shows or stuff. So they zoomed in. But everybody on the Zoom said, I wish I was in the room. Mm-hmm. And because I'd been on some Zoom reads where you read the script with that, it doesn't connect you to the cast.
Yeah. It's not the same.
And I'll only be in 4 scenes in this movie, but it's nice to, there's people, I'll never work with them on the set. Mm-hmm. We're not in the same scenes, right? But there's that camaraderie. That's how you build a team.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's, in fact, you heard all the coaches in the basketball, the baseball, and football talk about you can't build a team on Zoom, a true team, right? You can develop a group, but there's not a team. You need that human interaction, that energy. But
and you're
we're conspiracy theorists, so
that's okay. And there, it's what is the thing that until proven wrong, prove us wrong. My big question, and that's what I'm doing, is I'm questioning. I have no answers. I have just more questions. The more questions I have, the more that I find, the more questions I have. Instead of parroting what I have been programmed to believe. And I have to say, I've been very I want to use the word disappointed. I've backed off of Facebook and some of the other social connections because of hearing people spout the negative narrative. People who I admired, other hypnotists. I mean, for goodness sakes, I would think that a hypnotist would recognize when you're being programmed. But then it dawned on me that most hypnotists are somnambulists. We are the most suggestible to being programmed. So I'm seeing these people lash out with venom. It's not even their words. They're spewing what they have been programmed to believe. And I shake my head and go, do you not even see what you've been programmed, where you are?
Oh, yeah. I had a friend unfriend me, in fact.
Yeah.
And a quick movie reference. There's a scene in one of the Star Wars movies where Obi-Wan tells Anakin before he becomes Darth Vader, I failed you. Mm-hmm. Because, obviously I didn't train you right. And I think that way of all the people I've trained in hypnosis and NLP mm-hmm. that have swallowed this. And one guy said, don't you trust science, Will? You're a scientist at heart. I said, I trust science implicitly. I really do. And he goes, well, then why are you doing this? I go, do you know the number one rule of science is question everything?
Question everything. Yes.
And then look at the data and
mm-hmm.
re-question it.
Exactly.
And he's like, well, why would you do that? I go, that's what science does. Or the word, we'd still be telling people that everything revolves around the earth, mm-hmm. Which was a scientific thing. Or, what was the guy's name? I can't think of it. There was a doctor. He was ridiculed, basically killed himself mm-hmm. in the 1700s.
Because of this germ theory, right?
Yeah, because he's the one that got people to, because doctors delivering babies did not wash their hands between deliveries.
Yeah.
Right?
He got them to wash their hands, yes.
Yes, and you were a heretic. There is no such thing.
Right.
Now, it's like, well, and there's part of your brain called your reticular activating system, right?
Okay, yep.
And your reticular activating system, basically, it was geared to, again, keep you alive, find
mm-hmm.
threats.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a sudden movement will get your eye,
right?
That could be a leopard jumping at you or a snake, right? That's in your brain. That's in your DNA. That's what keeps your butt alive. Mm-hmm. And, okay, we're not constantly facing threats. Well, it's evolved a little bit. And that's why, if you've ever I'll use this because I'm a guy. If you ever wanted a new car, mm-hmm. right? And so you're looking at this car and that car and this car, and let's say you want a BMW, right? Suddenly, you'll notice BMWs everywhere.
Everywhere, yes.
The day before, you wouldn't notice it. Now mm-hmm. you told your brain it's important. Mm-hmm. Another example would be, if you were with some girlfriends or I was with guys, we start describing the type of people we find attractive.
Right.
You walk in a room, you will only notice the kind of people you find attractive
because you've put
first.
That, yes. Yeah.
Right. And you can override that. How many times people will say about their spouse, it's not the usual person I would be attracted to, mm-hmm. right? But they got to know them and then everything else. But that's how your brain works.
Yes.
And so what they've done is they defaulted a whole bunch of the population to look for threats. Mm-hmm. And I live in Florida, which is actually a rather free state, right?
Yes.
And they can't make you wear a mask even in private businesses.
Mm-hmm.
It's against what the governor signed,
Right.
And so I was in the grocery store last night, ran in to get something, and I had a mask in my hand, but I'm like, I'm not wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
Half the people wear it under their nose. They're
right.
not wearing it right. So I'm walking around, and about half the people in the store had the mask on, and the other half didn't, right? But to see the response of some of the ones that, like, looking at those of us that didn't have masks, like, and basically it's a threat.
Yes.
I'm a threat. And
mm-hmm.
one who says, I had somebody months ago when Florida opened up, and I'm like walking around, I didn't have a mask on. The lady goes, you don't have a mask. I go, well, that's very observant of you. And she goes, can you put a mask on? I said, I don't have one with me. She goes, I'll buy you one. I said, save your money. I ain't wearing it. Mm-hmm. Right? And she goes, how dare you? And I'm like, it's pretty easy, tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. I didn't serve in the Army and jump out of airplanes and all this to be told what to do.
Yes.
And so, it's like that whole, And now it's like it's the virtue and
Yes.
finding threat with everybody. And so my fear, and I'd like your opinion on this, because you're a beautiful, intelligent, articulate woman, is even as things open up, because here in Florida we were like first, and then Texas and some states are opening up. They're still seeing the residual of people still aren't going to restaurants as much as they did. We went to a couple movies, and they're not very crowded. And so they keep talking about going back to normal. They just spent a year of reprogramming you to fear other people.
Right.
So, that's my fear is, and I don't know about you, it's like, I don't know what'll go back to normal. You and I used to go to these conferences. Will they ever go again?
No. There's a divisiveness that's happening now with the mask to not mask, the vax to not vax. I had a specific situation happen just yesterday. My husband and I have been avid dancers. We've been in a dance community for years. So this group of dancers texted and said, "Oh, we're thinking about going back. There's going to be a dance at the end of May. We're thinking about going back, and we've been vaxxed, and we're concerned about the people who haven't been vaxxed." So there's all this stuff about, well, we've been vaxxed, and they're wearing it like a badge of honor. And these are not some of them are in their 70s, others are in their 60s, and it's like, what? So Kurt and I responded and said, well, based on our investigation, we are not being vaccinated, so we won't concern you. We're not going. And, so we are having to make a decision based on even though they've been vaccinated, they have a fear of being around other people who haven't been vaccinated. So there's this division that's happening. And I live in the live free or die state, New Hampshire, which is insane that these people are still so fear-based, even though they've been vaccinated.
Well, yeah, and if the vaccine works, I've even said that about parents that, like, don't let a kid in the school that's not been vaccinated. Well, if your kid's been vaccinated, what's the problem?
Exactly.
It's
the programming. They have been so programmed. So what can we do to change the programming, Will? Is there anything we can do? I know we teach people about NLP, and when we learn it, we can see it. It's so in your face obvious.
Well, I think just like what you're doing, just keep talking about it, because people are starting to see the cracks, right? Why do I have to stay 6 feet away from you in the airport and all this other stuff, but yet they'll pack us like cattle into the airplane?
In the plane. That's absurd.
Well, you got to have your mask on. I was getting on a plane it's been a while, obviously, but it was in August. I went somewhere. You got to have your mask on, and the place, and all this, and then, but you could take your mask off when you're drinking your soda. And I'm like, and you're in a closed air system, and I'm like, do you understand how closed air that's what I was thinking at grocery stores.
Right.
Like, do you understand how closed air system works?
Yeah.
And Dr. Fauci saying, oh, the HEPA filters on the airplanes, excuse me, they can't kill a virus. Right? But I think, going back to what you said, as people start to question it, they're going through cognitive dissonance, right? 'Cause they believed and they don't believe. It's what people do when they start changing. And the only thing you can do is keep being the voice in the wilderness, right? And, and just keep, because then people notice it, right? And then when you point, and never argue with people, you can just point out, well, why is it okay for this, but you can't do that?
Yeah.
You could go to Walmart and the freaking place is packed because they never restricted it, right? Or the
Walmart,
grocery store.
Home Depot, right? Yeah.
But you can't go to the health club or the church.
Right. There's something really wrong with that.
Right. Yeah, and I think part of it too. It's like, do you know how? Do you know where the framers of the Constitution met as they were plotting the revolution against the government? Which, don't forget, we were English, right? So it was actually a revolution. They met in pubs, restaurants, and lodges. Like the Masons or the Knights of Columbus, right? So what did they shut down?
They shut down
restaurants,
any places
bars, and clubs.
Places where people would gather to have actual, real conversations and not superficial talk about the masks and the vaccines.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't hide the fact I'm in recovery, so I go to my recovery meetings, and they shut that down for a while.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't think you want people in recovery not going to meetings, right?
Right.
And so, and even in California, total lockdown state, they were meeting on Zoom. Then finally, some people just said, "Excuse me, screw it, they're going to have meetings," and they were having meetings. And the one person was sharing, they were there, and somebody, of course, they called the cops because they see all these people, go in a building. And the cops showed up, and the cops were there, and they were trying to disperse the meeting, and they said, somebody walked up to him, and he goes, "Look at this room. There's 50 people in this room. You shut down places like this, you're going to have 50 drunk drivers on the road.
That's right.
That will do more damage than us sitting here in the meeting." Okay? And then thank God some like a sergeant or a lieutenant showed up who was in recovery and goes, "We're not messing with these people. Leave this shit alone."
And they don't have a legal right to disperse that either.
Right.
There are laws in place that you have the right to meet. You have the right. They cannot. All you have to do is tell them to leave. And then they have to leave. And one of the things, talking about addictions, you had mentioned to me that there's an addiction avalanche. That's what that was the word that you used. That based on this, where people have been isolated, their community has been disrupted, and they've been fed so much fear. We're going to have, and we are seeing, alcohol sales up, all of these different things, right?
Yeah, and even like you in the Northeast that locked down pretty good, they always kept the liquor stores open.
Yeah, think about that.
They were and somebody, because I put that up when this first started. I go, why is ABC Liquors considered an essential service?
Right.
And somebody said, well, they sell water. And I'm like, for God's sake, so does the grocery store, Walmart, and gas station.
Right. Wow.
Right? And if it's that bad, drink your tap water. I mean, it's like, but nope, liquor stores were open. It's also why they made sure the grocery stores stayed open. Tried to, is because it's like keep them fat and anesthetized, and we'll see what happens.
Exactly. And everywhere you look, it's all about getting the injection, getting it, needles everywhere. And so it's desensitizing those of us who have, long had needle phobias. But what is it doing for the people for the kids when they're wanting to experiment with drugs? Because right now, what's being pushed is an experimental drug. So where does the narrative go when you don't want your kids to experiment with drugs? They can throw this right in people's faces.
It goes back to the 60s and 70s when kids were, my group, I guess, when kids were smoking dope, and the parents would yell at them, and the joke always was the dad's yelling at the kid as he's drinking a Budweiser.
Yep, and smoking a cigarette.
And smoking a cigarette, and they're like, right? When kids are in that naturally thing. But like you say, now it's become this virtue. Everybody posting like on social media and everywhere, like, I've been fat, and it's like, and just the whole thing with the vaccine passport, right?
Right.
Which people go, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I go, I'm just worried about, what about the data privacy? Oh, it'll be fine. They've hacked the freaking CIA.
Yes. Yep.
The most secure web place in the world. People can hack it. And every day, I'm pretty sure you and I, at least once a month, you get a notice that your information has been compromised. Right? I just got one from an insurance company I had years ago. Okay? Well, we had they called it a data breach. We don't know if your information's been compromised. So, do you think that your medical records, which they're the big argument behind the scenes is, okay, so I go get vaccinated, is it going in my regular medical record? Well, of course, which opens the portal for them to get into your medical record.
Well, there's also, going down that rabbit hole, there's also a question about what's truly in some of the vaccines.
Oh, yeah.
Is there, and they say that there is a program in some of these vaccines. And I worked for a company when I was developing high-tech ultrasound, small handheld ultrasound devices. I actually, one of my claim to fame, whatever, I went to NASA to install the first ultrasound system on the space shuttle. And we were working with microchip technology back then, at microscopic technology. And that was, goodness, 20 years ago. Now they've got the ability to put, programs in these really, really small nanobits. And there are, whether it's true, I don't know, ask the question. Research, find out for yourself. But there are particles in some of these vaccines that we could potentially be programmed by the whatever our body is taking in through the vaccine.
Well, yeah, and the easiest thing from some guy that studied that I read, like you say, right? Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I'm reading it. He goes, well, and, they couldn't turn us into like the Borg if you're a Star Trek fan.
Right.
Yet.
Yeah.
But he said, well, the easiest thing would be to be able to turn off your life support.
Right. Exactly.
So they could just turn off a bunch of people could be programmed out, right? And, of course, one of the big pushers of all this, now we get into, and they really call you a conspiracy theory, is Bill Gates for decades has said we have too many people.
Eugenics, absolutely.
We need population. Well, he says it's like birth control.
Right.
We don't need, where I grew up, there were steel mills. The one steel mill at its height, it was the world's largest, had 26,000 employees in one steel mill. Now it has 4,000 employees, and it makes more steel. Just like and that's not, nobody's stealing the jobs. They just don't need people anymore.
Right, because of the technology efficiency, yes.
Yeah. And what is it? In China, they're building an auto plant that's only going to have like 300 employees because it's all automated.
And also,
so they don't need,
Sorry.
On that last thing I was going to say, somebody said, but look, Bill Gates gives away all this money. I go, look up his net worth.
Exactly.
It's tripled in the last year.
Yep.
Yeah,
so has Zuckerberg, so has all of these different people. It is amazing the wealth they've gained. But one of the things that also, talking about tracking, in China, with the technology that they have, they can track when a woman has her menstrual cycle. They know when a woman is fertile. They know if she's missed her period. They will actually be able to seek people out and abort the fetuses. I've traveled to China. I remember how it was one child only. And the whole concept of, if it's, they were removing the females because they only wanted males to build an army. So there's so much down this rabbit hole, and yet how much is true? But it's being hid from the masses, which that's, to me, is a shame. When I see these people post, yay, I had my vax, I thought, well, obviously you're in that programmed part. You're not really using your mind, your God-given mind, to ask the questions, to learn to think for yourself. That's the sadness. Well, it's like, and then when you go down this, you start talking to people, oh, you're just paranoid. I'm like, you can trust the government that gave 600 men syphilis in Alabama and tracked the disease. Right.
Never treated them. They all died.
Right.
That gave typhoid to the Indians. And then, of course, we locked up the Japanese.
And sterilized all the Indian women. Sterilized the Indian women.
And they took all the Indian kids, took them off the reservation.
Yes.
And, but the other one is and they still do it. In the last was, I think it was in the 50s, where they were radiating not just the veterans, not just the guys in the military, right? But their families to see what the results were.
Wow. Yep.
It's like, of course, and then you go down the thing of all the, and then like when you say about the experimental vaccine, every day they're recalling a drug that's been on the market.
Yes.
Was it Zantac is a big one? It's like, but it was the cure-all of whatever it was the cure-all for. Now, by the way, we found after 20 years it causes cancer in some people.
I'm really hoping that some of these vaccines are placebos, that they are actually hydroxychloroquine. I'm really hoping that not all of them have. And this is the thing, is we do not know what all the vaccines truly have in them. We don't know who is getting what. And I want to switch this. Will, we have 5 minutes left in the show, and I want to turn it around to something positive, because one of the things that I know about you, you are an avid horseman. And one of my favorite shows these days is Heartland, which my husband calls it Lassie for horses. So, or Lassie with horses. And we need to find ways to boost our immune system, to keep ourselves positive as we start to learn about all this negative that's out there. We have to learn about it and then use what we know about the power of the mind to shift and keep our energy up, to keep our immune system up. So tell us about working with horses and how that, with Mother Nature, keeps your energy up and positive and strong.
Yeah, well, first of all, there's a lot of research that points out that people with animals, dogs, cats, horses, animals, have healthier immune systems because you're being exposed to pathogens through the animals, right? But that's a good thing. That's, it's like lifting weights. You don't get strong by not lifting weights. And so animals do that. And also certain animals, especially dogs, horses, somewhat, and cats, right? But especially dogs and horses, they have a soothing effect for most people, right? And they intuitively, you ever notice, even a cat,
yeah,
when you're upset, I remember one time my wife was really upset about something, and and it was visible, and she's trying to hide it, but drama. But anyway, she was out at the horses, and the one horse that we've had for 20 years, or almost 20, about 20 years, I guess. The way the horse, I actually teared up. The way the horse walked up and just nuzzled her. It's like there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And she just stood there and hugged the horse for, I don't know, a couple minutes. And the dogs here will do it. When we're upset, the dogs will come up and just put their head on your lap and that. And so it's that connection that we talked about that, even with people we get it, but we get it with certain, animals. And it's that bonding.
I call it purr therapy with my cats.
Yeah.
They'll sit on your lap and purr and need you. And it's very calming. They're Zen masters. They teach us how to chill out.
Yeah. And it's like, that's what we need, right? And so it connects you with nature. Yeah. Especially doing the horses, you're outside, you're doing this, you're doing that, because people go, aren't I afraid? I go, well, at least once a day, literally, excuse my language, I shovel horse shit. Right? That's, the flies are there. It's like, it's a barn. It's like, it's like, that's how you build an immune system.
That's right. That's
and
exactly right.
You don't run and sterilize everything afterwards, right? And so that's the way you do it. You get back into nature. Kids used to eat dirt, drink out of water hoses.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And, working with animals, right? It helps build that empathy. That's what I love.
Empathy, responsibility, and true connection, because animals are unconditionally loving. And it's hard and challenging to find a tribe of people who are unconditionally loving because they've been so programmed. And that's what you and I do in the work we do to help them shift their mindset through the NLP techniques that we use and other types of techniques. And we both have programs coming up. And I will, when I post this, I will make a link to how to find you. It's National Federation NFNLP.org. Is that right?
.com.
Okay. And then I'm having a training coming up the beginning of May, and Will has one the end of May in NLP. And it's a powerful, powerful way to learn about yourself and others. So we are at the end of the show, Will. Oh, my goodness.
And learn NLP because it doesn't put you in trance. It brings you out of trance.
Exactly. Thank you so very much. Enjoy the summer sunshine, and we will talk very soon. Thank you, Will.
Right.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
listeners,
Godspeed.
for listening. Godspeed. And meanwhile, until next week, look up, stay positive, and be the light in someone's day. God bless.